in this video we're going to make a bottle on the wheel. So there are tons of different styles of bottles. I would definitely encourage you to look up a picture of one before you start. And bottles are definitely going to be the hardest thing you make in ceramics too, because they're so narrow at the top. And if your lip is too thin, it's not going to want to choke in. And if it's too thick, then your bottle won't be fireable. So it's very kind of playing around with the correct thickness. And also you have to trim them using a chuck, or really just throw it thin. Okay, so I've got my clay centered here. Okay, so I've coned, I've centered, I'm drilling. Now, if I do throw this thin enough, I won't be able, or I won't have to put a foot on this, okay, using the chuck, which I've got in another video for you. So in this video, I'm gonna try not to have to put a foot on it. That is my bat rocking, so I could do the paper towel trick, but also I can just use my left hand to kind of hold the bat down while I open. Gonna kind of second center here, got a little knocked off when that bat was shaking on me. Gonna smooth out my bottom, really compress it. I definitely don't want to leave water down there, because I will not be able to access the inside of this. Okay, I'm gonna raise in a volcano shape. When you get to the top, just always make sure your top isn't super wonky, okay? Slow and steady when you're raising. Doesn't have to be a speed race. Feel the thickness of the clay. If it's thin in one spot, then stop pressing there. I'm gonna get one more raise here. Okay. Just double checking everything. I would definitely encourage you, after you raise your cylinder up, to compress it, since bottles are difficult. We don't want any issues with the clay. So this is going to kind of fix any unevenness, get that slip off, strengthen the clay a bit. Again, double check there's no water down there, because I'm about to close this off. Okay, and this is a fairly small bottle. You actually don't have a height requirement on this project. I would just make it at least, 3 inches or so, because otherwise it's really not going to be able to store any type of liquid or oil. So I've kind of got the bottom bellied out, and I'm going to start choking at the top here, okay? But when I choke, the bottom sometimes can get kind of wonky, so it's okay to kind of keep a hand there and then choke at the top with your fingers. When you collar it in, it gets thicker, so I'm gonna have to raise now. So I've got basically my pointer fingers, my index fingers raising. Okay, and that right there could be a bottle. It kind of looks like a vase, a very narrow vase. But I'm gonna keep choking it in this video for you, just so you guys can see how narrow you can get a bottle. And I don't have to have it be this super ginormous neck either. I can get rid of that clay. I'm using my rib, but my finger is on the inside, otherwise I could make this uneven. Okay, now if you notice there's a little ripple like right there, so instead of dealing with that, I'm just going to cut it off. Boom. Okay, so all of these forms right now would count as a bottle as long as your top is really not wider than an inch, okay? But I would shoot for a little smaller. So I'm gonna kind of keep choking in here, and then I might do something funky here at the top just to play around and show you guys some things. If I cannot fit my finger in there anymore and I want to keep choking it, or I need to keep choking it, then you can use your needle tool. I'm cleaning mine off here so it doesn't stick, but I can choke and use this as a support, okay? Or if I needed to keep raising, I could raise against this needle tool, and if it gets even thinner than this, I can use the top part of the needle, okay, if I really want to close it off, okay? So, kind of lots of different bottle shapes here that you can do. Again, I told you I was going to kind of play around with the top here, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So first, I'm going to fix this bottom. It's gotten a little wonky as I've been playing around, showing you different things. So I'm going to kind of smooth it out and compress it with my metal rib. Gotten that better. Now I'm going to kind of go up the side here using my rib. And then I'm going to open back up this top here that I've closed very gently with my finger. Okay. And I think I like that width, but as you can see it's a little paper thin there because I just stretched it back out. So I'm careful not to put it on the inside, but I will show you how you can get water on the inside in a second if you did get some in there. Okay, so I've trimmed that off. I'm gonna compress it a little bit. But one thing you can do with a bottle is make some like lines. Think of like the top of your bottle, your water bottle that you drink out of. Sometimes there's like ridges and things, so I can kind of make some ridges for fun here. Get the little crumbs off. I can even make this just top part right here wider than the part below it, just to kind of make it unique. Okay. All right, so most important part is I don't want to trim this bottle as we talked about, okay, on a chuck at least. So I do not want to have to trim this using loop tools when it's leather hard, okay? So I'm going to, because I drilled the bottom thin, I'm going to wet trim the base of this to an extreme amount and get it very thin. So I'm going to kind of taper in. But I do want to make sure I don't like cut it off the bat and it starts sliding on me. But I'm really kind of undercutting it and getting clay off, getting weight off. And so it looks like I've trimmed it and put a foot on it, but I have not, okay? And you know what? I still might have to later, but for now we're gonna try not to. So, last but not least, always take your rib and smooth out any ridges that you've created and get that slip off of it so it looks nice and smooth. Okay, there's my funky little bottle. Last thing I'll show you is if I did have water in here and I was worried about it. Okay, as long as I haven't wired this, I can do that, okay, and dump the water out. But I don't actually have any water in there for you to see draining, but pretend.